You know what stops most people from reaching their full potential? It's not lack of time, not lack of opportunity, not even lack of talent. It's that invisible, poisonous comfort that creeps in when we tell ourselves, "I'll do it later." That quiet voice that whispers, "Relax, you deserve a break." That's not rest, that's resistance dressed as reason. And if you let it grow, it will kill your dreams long before you even try to chase them. Every great thing in life comes with resistance. Every time you want to change, your mind fights back. It says, "You're tired, you've done enough, you can start tomorrow." But listen to me, there is no tomorrow for lazy feelings. There's only now, this moment, because the moment you let that laziness win once, it will keep winning. It doesn't go away by waiting. It dies when you decide to act in spite of it. You were not born to sit around, scrolling, watching others live the life you dream about. You were born to move, to build, to rise. There's power in your body, in your breath, in your choices, but that power only comes alive when you move. Action kills laziness. Action rewires your mind. When you push past the comfort, you train your brain to associate discomfort with growth, and suddenly the pain becomes purpose. You have to stop negotiating with your lazy feelings. Stop asking, "Do I feel like it?" Because feelings are liars. If you wait to feel ready, you'll wait forever. You don't need to feel motivated, you need to be committed. Motivation fades, commitment stays. That's the difference between the people who talk about changing and the people who actually do. When you wake up tired, when your mind says, "5 more minutes," that's the moment you train your discipline. That's the moment you build your edge. Winners don't wait for perfect moods. They move through imperfect moments. They do what needs to be done, whether they feel like it or not. Because they understand something powerful. Emotion follows motion. Once you start moving, the energy comes. Once you act, the mind wakes up. Once you step forward, momentum builds. You don't kill laziness with thoughts, you kill it with movement, with action, with a decision so strong that no excuse can break it. You take control of your mind by showing it who's in charge. Every time you push past the urge to quit, you build a new identity, the identity of someone who follows through, someone who executes, someone who finishes what they start. So ask yourself right now, are you letting your lazy feelings drive your life? Are you letting comfort control your destiny? Because comfort feels good now, but costs you later. Discomfort feels hard now, but pays you for life. Every day you choose. You choose between progress or procrastination, growth or stagnation, greatness or regret. You have to see laziness for what it really is: fear. Fear of effort, fear of failure, fear of discomfort. But the truth is, every time you face that fear, you shrink it. You kill it. You take back control. Your body can go further than your mind tells you it can. Your potential is way beyond your excuses. You just have to break the chain, that one lazy moment, that one skipped step, that one ignored opportunity, and replace it with action. There's a version of you waiting on the other side of effort. A stronger, sharper, unstoppable version, but you'll never meet that version until you stop letting your lazy feelings run the show. You have to stand up, take ownership, and say, "Enough. Enough waiting. Enough wishing. Enough lying to yourself. Move, act, create, push. Because if you don't kill your lazy feelings now, they'll kill your future later." The world doesn't reward intentions, it rewards execution. So get up, get focused, get hungry, turn every lazy thought into fuel, turn every excuse into energy. Because the moment you stop waiting for motivation and start acting with purpose, you become unstoppable. You don't need permission, you don't need perfect timing, you just need to decide right now that your dreams are more important than your comfort. Kill your lazy feelings before they kill your greatness. Stop negotiating with your lazy feelings, act despite how you feel. Every time you ask yourself, "Do I feel like it?" you hand control over to the weakest part of you. Because let's be honest, no one ever really feels like doing the hard things all the time. You don't always feel like waking up early, training, studying, creating, or grinding. But that's exactly why most people stay stuck there waiting to feel ready, waiting for the perfect moment, waiting for motivation that never comes. You can't wait to feel good to do what needs to be done. You must learn to act independent of your emotions, because your emotions are temporary, but your goals are not. When you negotiate with your lazy feelings, you let temporary moods make permanent decisions. You say, "I'll start tomorrow," and tomorrow becomes next week, next month, next year. You waste opportunities not because you couldn't do it, but because you gave your feelings the power to decide. There's a reason people who succeed seem unstoppable. They've trained themselves to act regardless of how they feel. They don't let emotions decide their effort. They've built the mental muscle of discipline, and discipline doesn't care about comfort. When you stop negotiating with laziness, something changes inside you. You stop living like a slave to your moods. You take charge. You start doing the work because it's who you are, not because you feel like it. It's a shift from being reactive to being intentional. You realize that consistency doesn't come from excitement, it comes from decision. And that decision has to be made daily, sometimes hourly, especially when your mind tries to drag you back into the comfort zone. Think about it. The biggest difference between the person you are and the person you want to become isn't talent, it's consistency. And consistency begins when you stop negotiating. Every time you choose action over emotion, you cast a vote for the future version of yourself. You tell your brain, "We're doing this no matter what." And that repetition reprograms your identity. You start to believe in your own strength, not because you feel powerful, but because you've proven it through action. You build self-respect by keeping promises to yourself, especially when it's hard. You start realizing that feelings come and go, but results only show up for those who act. The truth is, laziness is seductive because it feels safe. It tells you to stay comfortable, to take it easy, to relax because you've done enough. But that comfort comes at a cost. It robs you of momentum, of growth, of pride. Every time you give in, you reinforce weakness. Every time you push through, you reinforce power, and power grows with repetition. The moment you stop entertaining your lazy thoughts, you start controlling your focus. You stop debating whether to act, and you just do. That's when real transformation begins, not when things are easy, but when you act in spite of resistance. Your mind will always look for the path of least resistance. It's wired to protect you from discomfort. But growth only happens when you lean into it. You have to build the habit of doing what's necessary even when it feels inconvenient. Wake up tired, move anyway. Don't feel inspired, start anyway. Because once you take action, your brain catches up. Action creates clarity, energy, and confidence. Waiting for the right feeling keeps you trapped. Doing it anyway sets you free. The people who achieve greatness don't have less laziness than you. They've just mastered how to silence it. They've stopped giving it attention. They don't debate with their mind. They move. That's the secret. When you decide that your goals matter more than your comfort, when you commit to acting even when you feel resistance, you begin to rewrite your story. It's not about perfection. It's about showing up when you don't feel like it again and again until it becomes your natural response. You create momentum through motion, and momentum kills laziness faster than motivation ever will. Every time you choose to act despite how you feel, you grow stronger. Every time you refuse to negotiate with that lazy voice, you prove that you're in control. That's how discipline is built, through small, consistent victories over emotion. You have to understand that your feelings are not facts. They're just passing signals. They don't deserve the power to decide your destiny. When you take that power back, you step into a different level of living, one where you move with purpose, not permission. And once you stop waiting to feel ready, life starts opening up in ways you never imagined, because action creates progress, and progress fuels everything. Emotion follows motion. Start moving, and motivation will come. This is one of the most powerful truths you can ever embrace about life. Too many people sit around waiting for motivation, thinking it will magically appear if they just feel inspired enough. But the reality is that motivation is not a spark that comes before action, it is the result of action. It is created when you take that first step, even when your mind resists, even when your body protests, even when every excuse in the book is screaming at you to stop. Motion movement is the key. The act of doing something, no matter how small, generates energy, creates clarity, and awakens your inner drive. Waiting for motivation first is like waiting for a fire to start before you light the match. The match itself is the first step, the movement that ignites the flame. When you begin to move, even in tiny increments, your brain reacts, your body reacts, your emotions begin to shift. That lethargy, that heaviness, that feeling of being stuck begins to lift because your body is wired to respond to action. Every time you take a step forward, neurons in your brain fire to reinforce that choice. You start building patterns that support progress, rather than patterns that reinforce inaction. You learn that feeling like it is not a prerequisite for doing it. You learn that energy, motivation, and drive are byproducts of movement, not prerequisites. And the more consistently you move, the more your body, mind, and spirit align to produce unstoppable momentum. Think about the mornings when you felt tired, exhausted, and unmotivated to work, to exercise, or to take on your responsibilities. What always happens once you start? The first few moments feel uncomfortable, heavy, even painful. But as you persist, energy builds, your heart rate increases, blood flows, your mind begins to focus. Thoughts become sharper, ideas flow. That sluggish, lazy feeling that was holding you back evaporates because your motion has created momentum. Momentum is like gravity. Once it starts, it pulls you forward. You create a chain reaction where action breeds energy, and energy breeds more action. And before you know it, what once felt impossible or unappealing now feels manageable, natural, even exciting. This principle works in every area of life: health, career, relationships, learning, and personal growth. If you wait to feel motivated, to start a new habit, to reach a goal, or to face a challenge, you are setting yourself up for failure. Motion must come first. The first push against resistance is always the hardest, but it is also the most crucial. That first push proves to yourself that you are stronger than your excuses. It proves that you are capable of acting in spite of discomfort. And as soon as you act, your emotions start to align with your movement. Fear is replaced by courage, doubt is replaced by clarity, laziness is replaced by energy. The secret is in consistency. Action doesn't have to be perfect. Motion doesn't have to be grand. What matters is that you start, and that you continue to move day after day. Tiny steps, repeated consistently, build momentum that compounds over time. Every action creates new pathways in your mind, new habits in your life, new levels of confidence in yourself. Eventually, your motion becomes automatic. You no longer need to wait for motivation because your body and mind are already in motion. Motion creates rhythm, rhythm creates confidence, and confidence creates results. Most people fail because they reverse the process. They wait for motivation to appear, thinking it will make action easier, but motivation is unreliable. It fluctuates, fades, and disappears. Motion is dependable. Motion produces motivation. Motion creates energy. Motion produces clarity. Motion generates results. When you understand this, you begin to see every task, every challenge, and every opportunity not as something you have to feel like doing, but as something you have to move toward. The act of starting, no matter how small, no matter how imperfect, is what triggers the chain reaction that leads to unstoppable momentum. The key to mastering this is to build the habit of immediate action. When a thought comes to improve, to create, to work, to grow, you act on it right away. You don't wait, you don't debate, you don't negotiate, you move. That movement, even if small, generates energy, and that energy produces motivation, which in turn fuels further action. It is a cycle that compounds relentlessly. Once you grasp this principle, you begin to live a life where progress is inevitable, energy is constant, and success is a natural outcome. Movement is the antidote to laziness, to procrastination, and to doubt. It is the gateway to clarity, focus, and unstoppable drive. The moment you begin to act, your mind wakes up, your body wakes up, your emotions wake up. You realize that you were never waiting for motivation. Motivation was waiting for you to move. And the more consistently you choose motion over hesitation, the stronger, more disciplined, and more unstoppable you become. Action does not wait for feeling. Feeling follows action. Your task is simple but not easy. Whenever you feel stuck, take one step forward and then another. The first step is the hardest. The second step is easier. The third step builds momentum. That momentum will carry you forward in ways you cannot yet see, because motion triggers results, and results generate the energy that motivation alone could never provide. Every day, every moment, every choice to move is an opportunity to turn your life around, to overcome resistance, and to align your emotions with your purpose, all by simply starting to move. Replace comfort with commitment. Discipline beats mood every time. This is a principle that separates the people who talk about changing from the people who actually do. Comfort feels good in the moment. It tells you to rest, to postpone, to take it easy. It seduces you with safety, with ease, with the illusion that time is infinite and tomorrow will always be better than today. But comfort is a thief. It steals your progress, your energy, and your potential. Every time you choose comfort over commitment, you reinforce weakness, delay growth, and sabotage your future. To achieve greatness, you must learn to replace comfort with commitment. You must learn to act not because you feel like it, but because you are committed to your vision, your goals, and your purpose. Commitment is different from motivation. Motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes like the wind. One day you feel inspired, the next day you don't. Discipline, on the other hand, is a choice. Discipline is a decision that you make consistently, day after day, regardless of how you feel. Discipline is the muscle that carries you through discomfort, the force that pushes you past resistance, and the mindset that turns action into results. When you replace comfort with commitment, you stop waiting for mood or motivation to dictate your actions. You stop asking, "Do I feel like it?" and start asking, "Am I committed enough to do it anyway?" Every high achiever understands this truth. They do not rely on how they feel in the moment. They rely on the structure they have built in their lives, the systems they have created, and the promises they have made to themselves. They understand that consistency is more powerful than intensity, and commitment is more reliable than inspiration. They wake up early, train, work, and push themselves because they have chosen a standard that they refuse to compromise. That standard is not negotiable because it is tied to identity. You cannot build a life of greatness by negotiating with comfort. You must act in alignment with your commitment, even when it feels hard, inconvenient, or uncomfortable. Comfort is seductive because it offers instant gratification. It tells you to relax, to scroll, to watch, to procrastinate. It promises temporary relief while it quietly erodes your potential. Every moment you spend in comfort without purpose is a moment wasted. Every day you choose to prioritize ease over effort is a day where someone else is gaining the advantage over you. But when you replace comfort with commitment, you flip the script. You begin to see discomfort not as a threat, but as a sign of growth. You begin to embrace challenges as opportunities to strengthen your discipline. You begin to take ownership of your life because you are acting from a place of choice, not convenience. The process of replacing comfort with commitment is not easy. It requires self-awareness, honesty, and a willingness to push beyond the excuses that your mind presents. It requires you to recognize the moments when you are choosing ease over effort and to consciously choose a different path. It requires repetition until it becomes habit, until action becomes automatic, and until discipline becomes part of who you are. The more consistently you commit in the absence of comfort, the stronger you become. The more you push through resistance, the more resilient your mind and body become. Every time you choose commitment over comfort, you are training yourself to operate at a higher level. You are teaching your brain that effort is valuable, that consistency matters, and that results are not a matter of chance, but a matter of choice. You are reinforcing a standard of excellence that becomes non-negotiable. That standard will carry you through tough times, setbacks, and obstacles because your commitment is anchored deeper than your feelings. Your identity becomes tied to action, not emotion. You stop looking for excuses. You stop waiting for permission. You stop negotiating with your moods. Discipline beats mood every time because moods are temporary, but results are permanent. Every action taken in alignment with your commitment compounds over time. Every moment of resistance overcomes strengthens your character. Every time you choose to do what's necessary instead of what's easy, you build a foundation of trust in yourself. You begin to realize that you are capable of more than you imagined, that your potential is far greater than your comfort zone, and that progress is inevitable when you refuse to compromise. The world does not reward comfort. It rewards those who are committed to showing up, to doing the work, and to taking action regardless of circumstances. Commitment transforms dreams into reality because it moves beyond feeling and relies on execution. It is the bridge between desire and achievement, between intention and results. When you replace comfort with commitment, you no longer live as a passive observer of your own life. You take charge, you act. You create. You become unstoppable because your standard is higher than your excuses. Laziness is fear in disguise, face it, and you take back control. Too often, we think we are lazy when in reality, what we are feeling is fear. Fear of failure, fear of discomfort, fear of judgment, fear of the unknown. Laziness is the mask that fear wears to make us feel safe while our potential quietly slips away. When you understand this, you begin to see every moment of procrastination, every excuse, every delay not as a weakness, but as an opportunity to confront the fear that is holding you back. Every time you feel the pull to avoid action, it is a signal. It is your chance to grow stronger, to prove to yourself that you are bigger than the fear that wants to control you. Fear is powerful because it is invisible. It whispers to you in the form of comfort. It tells you to stay in bed, to skip the workout, to avoid the difficult conversation, to postpone your goals. It hides behind the guise of relaxation, laziness, or even busyness. And if you are not careful, it can take over your life without you ever realizing it. But the moment you recognize fear hiding as laziness, you take away its power. Awareness is the first step toward control. When you see the truth that your hesitation is fear, you can confront it, push through it, and reclaim the energy and focus that fear was trying to steal from you. The key to overcoming this disguised fear is action. Action is the antidote to anxiety, the cure to hesitation, and the weapon against procrastination. Every time you act in spite of the fear, you weaken it. You train your mind to associate discomfort with growth rather than defeat. You prove to yourself that fear is not stronger than you. The first step is always the hardest, but it is also the most powerful. That single step demonstrates that you are in charge, that your life is not controlled by invisible chains, that you are capable of more than your mind initially believes. Fear may always be present, but it can no longer dictate your choices once you take consistent, deliberate action. Most people let this fear grow because they wait for the right moment, the perfect conditions, or the ideal mood. They convince themselves that they will start tomorrow, next week, or next month, believing that when they feel ready, everything will fall into place. But fear has no schedule. Fear only grows when ignored. Every day you postpone action is another day fear strengthens its grip. The moment to confront it is now. Waiting for courage or inspiration is a trap. Courage is built through doing, through moving forward even when your mind screams to stay still. Every challenge you face is an opportunity to confront your fear disguised as laziness. When you push through that uncomfortable moment, when you make a call, take a risk, or do the work you do not feel like doing, you rewire your brain. You teach yourself that discomfort is temporary, but achievement is permanent. You teach yourself that fear does not own you, and with each victory over inaction, you build momentum, confidence, and a sense of control that can never be taken away. Laziness is not an obstacle. It is a signal, a sign that you are on the edge of growth, that the next action you take will push you closer to the person you are capable of becoming. To master this, you must cultivate awareness and courage simultaneously. Notice the moments when your mind tries to convince you to stay still. Label them as fear. Take a deep breath and then act. Even a small action matters. A single decision to move when you want to freeze creates ripples through your entire life. Consistency in facing these moments compounds into unstoppable momentum. Fear loses its grip not by wishing it away, but by proving repeatedly that you are willing to do the work regardless of how you feel. This principle applies to every area of life: health, business, relationships, education, personal growth. Every step you avoid is a step that fear is taking for you. Every time you give in to comfort, fear gets stronger. But every time you act, even imperfectly, fear loses ground. Action rewires your mind, strengthens your discipline, and aligns your emotions with your purpose. You realize that the version of yourself you aspire to be is waiting just beyond the wall of fear and inaction. Laziness is the wall. Action is the key. When you consistently turn fear into fuel, resistance into opportunity, and hesitation into momentum, you reclaim control over your life. The most powerful shift occurs when you begin to see fear not as an enemy, but as a guide. It points directly to the areas where growth is possible, where courage is required, and where greatness can be claimed. Laziness is simply the shadow that fear casts on your mind and body. By confronting it, moving through it, and taking decisive action, you transform that shadow into light, turning what once held you back into the very force that propels you forward. Your choices, repeated consistently, prove to yourself that you are stronger than any fear, capable of more than any excuse, and in complete control of your destiny. The world does not reward intentions, it rewards execution. This is a hard truth that separates dreamers from achievers. Anyone can have ideas, plans, and visions, but those alone mean nothing if they are not turned into action. Execution is what transforms thought into reality. It is what separates the person who talks about changing their life from the person who actually does it. You can have the best plan, the most brilliant strategy, or the strongest desire, but without execution, it remains invisible, untapped, and worthless. Action is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be, and understanding this is the first step toward true power and progress. Intentions are easy, they are comfortable, they allow you to feel good without risking effort. You can plan, dream, and talk about your goals endlessly, and it feels productive, but in reality, you are not moving. Execution is hard. It demands courage, energy, and commitment. It requires pushing past resistance, fear, and distractions. It is uncomfortable because it forces you to confront your limits and move beyond them. Every successful person understands this distinction. They know that the moment between planning and doing is where the battle is won or lost. That moment determines whether ideas remain dreams or transform into achievements. Procrastination is the enemy of execution. It disguises itself as rest, preparation, or strategy. It convinces you that you are not ready yet, that conditions are not perfect, or that tomorrow will be better. But the truth is, perfect conditions rarely exist. Waiting for the ideal moment is a trap that kills progress. Execution requires starting now with what you have where you are. It requires pushing past hesitation and doing the work even when it feels difficult or inconvenient. The moment you decide to act, even imperfectly, you take control, you create momentum, and momentum is what turns effort into results. Execution is built on discipline and consistency. It is not about occasional bursts of effort or waiting for inspiration. It is about showing up day after day, doing what needs to be done regardless of how you feel. When you commit to execution, you stop negotiating with your comfort or your moods. You no longer rely on motivation to dictate your performance because you understand that motivation is temporary, but results are permanent. Every action you take compounds over time, building habits, reinforcing skills, and moving you closer to your goals. Execution is the engine that drives progress, and without it, talent and ideas remain dormant. The power of execution also lies in feedback. When you act, you learn. When you fail, you gain insight. When you adjust, you improve. Waiting, planning, or theorizing without action provides none of this. You cannot refine a plan without trying it. You cannot grow without stepping into discomfort. Execution forces clarity because it demands decisions, accountability, and results. It reveals what works, what doesn't, and what you are capable of achieving. Those who execute consistently become masters of their craft because they are constantly learning, iterating, and improving. Many people overestimate the importance of planning and underestimate the power of doing. They believe that knowledge or ideas alone will create results, but in reality, results are earned in the moment of execution. Ideas are worthless until acted upon. Strategy is meaningless without implementation. Talent is wasted without effort. Execution transforms all potential into reality. It turns thoughts into tangible outcomes. It forces you to confront your limits, face challenges, and overcome obstacles. Execution is where growth happens, where fear is conquered, and where success is claimed. To execute effectively, you must cultivate urgency. You must treat every opportunity as something that requires immediate action. You must stop making excuses, stop waiting for the right mood, stop hoping for perfect timing. The moment to act is always now. Small actions, repeated consistently, compound into massive results. Large actions, taken boldly and decisively, create breakthroughs. Execution is scalable because every step forward, no matter how small, brings you closer to your goal. Every step ignored, no matter how minor it seems, allows distance to grow between you and your dreams. Ultimately, execution is a reflection of your character. It shows whether you are a person of action or a person of words. It defines your results, shapes your life, and determines your legacy. To live a life of impact, to achieve your goals, to create lasting change, you must move beyond intention and into execution. You must take ownership of your life and make things happen. You must act consistently, decisively, and boldly. The world rewards those who do, not those who plan. It rewards those who execute, not those who dream. It rewards those who take responsibility, face resistance, and push forward until the job is done. Execution is the ultimate differentiator. It turns average into excellence, potential into performance, and dreams into reality. It is not optional. It is not negotiable. It is the one thing that separates those who live in regret from those who live in achievement. When you understand that results come only from action, you stop waiting. You stop doubting. You stop hesitating. You take control, act decisively, and move relentlessly toward your goals. Execution is the engine that powers success, and the moment you embrace it fully, your life begins to transform in ways you never thought possible.